Hey, it's Brendan Quigley from 3 Acres, and I wanted to quickly show you what dynamic content is. You may have seen it talked about, and you may have seen it in the admin or in the customizer, but you might not have totally understood how you can use it. So if I just jump back into the admin real quick and go to products, we'll look up that product here, the complete snowboard. So if we drop into like where you edit this product page and scroll all the way down, you will see a little area called Metafields. This lets you sort of add questions more or less to the product and then put in the answers. And so these metafields are sort of, think of them as like additional data that's connected to that product. So if you've got data like this, what you are able to do in the theme template, so I'm in the default product template, you are able to use that content. So let's say in the product information, I'll move myself out of the way. Let's say we wanted to add some details, maybe above the description. So I'll go in here, I'll add a block above. We want to maybe add an accordion. So you can see how it's added the accordion in there. So let's go in here and we'll just say like the binding type. So that's great. That's the heading. Then what we'll do is under that accordion row that says binding type, we'll go into text. And this is where the dynamic content can really play in. We could manually put in text here, but then that text is going to appear on every product that has that template. If we delete that and we go to this little connect dynamic source, this will give us options from the closest product, so the product page that we're on. And you'll see here that we have a snowboard binding mount. So we're able to click that. It puts a little variable in there, but you can see now that the text for this snowboard is now 4x4. And you don't have to stop there. You could say the binding type is a 4x4, put a little space in there, style or type. Oh, I already said type. You get the picture. What this does, which is different than manually doing it, is that now it will populate that value in there for every snowboard. The one caveat that I would say is that you can see how I've set this up. It does mean that if that metafield is blank, this would be very weird. It would say the binding type is a blank. So if you're going to set it up this way, you got to make sure that those metafields are populated. There is another way to do this where we would custom build a block that would hide itself automatically if the metafield was blank. So that's something that's like maybe a little step above this where we could do something like this, but we would custom build it so it hides. And you can see how you can add, if you go into settings and if you go into down here to metafields, metafields can be added to all sorts of elements. And into products, you can add dozens and dozens of metafields in here, and they can all have different types and be used on different products, etc. And that's one way that you can customize your page without having to create like a separate template for every product. That kind of gets very difficult after a while to keep track of everything. And then you can add all this fancy data to your store. It's very cool. So if this is something that you like, if this is something that you're looking for, let me know. We can make this happen, and we can even do it sort of in that more sophisticated way where you don't have to worry about the metafield always being full. We can hide the content if the metafield's blank, and that way it only shows on the products that you want it to show on.